Okay, we'll call to order the meeting of the Northfield Fire Department Building Committee on March 11th, 2024 at 5:38 p.m. Those present, Dennis, Paul, Kevin, Nate, and the Commissioner's rep, Tim, the Chief. Those not present are either of our firefighters, and unfortunately, Lisa is not here tonight. So we're in a Zoom call with Mr. Sean McKinley from UNH Survey Center. So we'll go ahead and discuss everything, Sean, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So we received the revised survey, and I don't know if anyone else has gone through it, but I'd like to go through and just
I don't have it.
highlight. It was attached to an email.
Sean, would you mind opening it and sharing your screen if possible?
Will do.
Thank you.
It was attached to the email from a week and a half ago.
And I attached it again today when I sent out the notice.
I never got the email from today.
Oh, you didn't?
No. Okay.
I did.
Well, that's handy as hell. I like that.
So, if we go to the very top, Sean, there's just some kind of housekeeping in that first paragraph where in the third line it says emergency services in the area, and we said that same thing in the previous sentence, so I just think it's repetitive.
Yep.
And then the paragraph that starts TNFD, in the first line it says only a garage. I think we should delete only. And this is up for discussion, guys, so I'm not trying to railroad anything. I'm just going through my list. In the next paragraph, if you have any, please contact Sean. And there's a parentheses before Chief Michael Seatar. Yep.
It should be a parentheses instead of a bracket. And on the other end, you had a parentheses, so
Right.
one or the other.
Right.
Yep. Got it.
Okay. Then the next one is for questions 4, 8, and 20.
Yeah.
There is no question 20.
Yeah, we'll update that when we're done.
Okay, so I think that should be 13. Is that correct? Okay.
I have a question about the paragraph above that.
Okay.
Yeah, do we want to just
It says other
do the
location.
paragraph
too.
and then,
It doesn't say what that location is.
yeah, so is that something we decided on? Would we want people to go to the fire station to pick them up, or would we want to have copies available at both town halls so residents can go there to pick them up?
Are these numbered?
The questions?
No, the surveys. How does someone know that I don't go get 25 of them?
You only get nailed one.
But it says there are others available at some other location.
Well, because you have to fill out your name and information. I believe the bottom section has.
No, it's not.
Sean, how do we find out if somebody submitted more than one survey? Like they took the one that got mailed to the house and then went to the town clerk's office and took 20.
Yeah, so theoretically a person can do that. You might be able to figure that out just with postage if we're getting just a bunch from the exact same place if they put any return on there, though they shouldn't really with these. Realistically, it's just a matter of you kind of have to accept that someone theoretically could do that. But most of the time in these circumstances, the thing that we're much more worried about is getting people to take it once, not people taking it too many times. We don't have to have paper copies if you don't want to, but that's something that normally we include in this context because there is the possibility that multiple people in the same household want to take the survey. So that's something that we usually provide. Most of the time, when we do something like that, we get a handful of people who end up going and getting a copy. Few people who might not want to do it, or well, when we do it online, that sometimes happens. Or people lost it, that happens too. People say, "Oh, I got one in the mail. I don't know what happened to it," or my spouse wants to do it too. But usually it's only a handful. And it doesn't make a huge difference, but it makes people feel a little bit better. But if you'd rather not do that because you're concerned about it, we can decide against doing that, and we could just ask people to do it once with just once per household.
I forget, is this by address or is it by registered voter?
It's to your address. We can't really do it by registered voter, and the registered voter lists really aren't nearly as accurate as you would like, especially the ones we have access to. So we're just sending one to each household.
I mean, could we make a list of addresses that request additional copies in person and the number requested?
Well, if we choose to give them out at the town halls, the town hall, but then we'd have to get the town clerks to actually agree to keep them behind the counter and dole them out. That's one way to control it. If someone comes in and says, I want 20 of these things.
If we have them at the fire station, we can control that. I don't know if we can really control it at the town hall.
Right.
Well,
The fire station.
Why don't we just offer additional copies at the fire station?
Perfect.
You're open 24/7,
Yep.
so.
Yeah. No one's going to give out 20 copies down there.
Right.
Everybody gets one.
I don't know how you guys all feel about this. On the paragraph there when we open up. This is just me. When I looked at it, it says the very first sentence. You go up there and at the end there it says experiences and feelings regarding. I just prefer the word thoughts, to be frank. We'll look for people's thoughts on this.
Where are you?
It's very top.
Very
It
top.
starts up Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS.
Yeah.
Experiences and thoughts regarding emergency. I just like the word thoughts.
Get rid of the word feelings.
Yeah, I choose. I prefer thoughts opposed to feelings. But
Yeah.
I'd like to know your thoughts on this.
That's because you're more intellectual than emotional.
I'm
So
fine
you think we
with
should
that.
say experience and thoughts regarding emergency services?
Experiences and thoughts. We want to learn more about the residents' experience and thoughts regarding emergency services in the area.
Or is what you think about it and what you feel about it the same? I don't think so.
I don't know.
Now, my personal saying is animals feel, people think. You feel hungry, you feel pain, you think about this kind of stuff.
I think therefore I am, right?
I'm fine with changing it to thoughts.
I feel like the second sentence could be cut down to.
Well, let's focus on, is everybody cool with changing that to thoughts before we move on?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Nate?
Yeah, so I was thinking, planning for the district, since we're already using emergency services above.
I guess I have no opinion one way or the other on
It's also shorter as far as
I don't think that,
word length.
that's not going to change the length of the survey because
Yeah.
unless you can take a whole line out.
Yeah.
Reduces the redundancy of the verbiage.
Either way.
Can you move that stuff that's in the way of the letters?
When he takes his finger off.
Well, he has to unselect it.
I can't. There we go. So the result of this survey will be used in long-term planning for emergency services. We're very much, what's wrong with that?
I think emergency services delivery is probably, adding a word is probably better, personally, but I have no say.
I'm fine with it, just like it is.
All right.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Unfortunately, I think delivery just might be long enough to kick us down another row. I think it'll go into the shield there, unless you can finagle it, I don't know.
Yeah, we got enough room.
Enough room? Okay. I don't care either way, really.
Kevin,
I don't think if we're talking about that same sentence,
adding the word delivery
delivery.
in the second sentence.
It's
of the
now
first
there.
paragraph.
Delivery. I guess I haven't got to where it is yet.
Third line, third word,
Very first paragraph, last
first
sentence.
paragraph.
You just highlighted it. for me.
Long-term plan for emergency delivery, no, I don't. Emergency services, we all know what that is.
Yeah, let's leave it like it was, Sean, please. Okay,
Look at that going, that's so cool.
Any issue with the next block?
okay. You had a comment earlier?
Yeah, the fourth paragraph, if you have technical difficulties, why would I have technical difficulties?
You're holding the paper.
And why would I have trouble accessing the survey? I'm holding it in my hand.
Just kind of the standard language we use, but we can tweak it if you'd like. It's usually, more of a context of web stuff, but
That would be pertinent if it were an online survey, right?
Right.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not an online survey.
I feel like that first sentence could be removed and we could just have the questions or concerns with the chief and the town website.
Well, I disagree to some extent because by keeping Sean's contact information in there, it's reiterating the fact that this is a survey being performed by UNH, not by the fire department.
And
That's a valid point.
it would be up to them to fix anything wrong with it anyway, right? Not us with the chief.
What I would say is, if you have any questions,
About the survey,
please
contact
contact
Sean.
Sean or the chief.
Yeah, we can probably combine that into one shorter sentence.
yeah, so that would be the only consideration there is which kind of issues you'd be contacting either me or the chief about. For me, it's usually things with like actually having trouble filling it out. That would be, I think in this case, probably most likely people asking questions about how to return it, which is really simple. So I would maybe just say having difficulty completing the survey or something like that. Then we can just have me in there. And then have the chief for basically everything else. Because for the most part, this would probably be stuff going to the chief. For me, it's just going to be pretty simple bread and butter stuff of, I don't understand this about the survey, but for bigger things about like why you're doing it, what the implications are, those are probably the more common things that we would expect to get. And those would be ones that the chief's going to be able to answer far better than I can.
That sounds good to me.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing I found was question 20, which you said you would change to question 13.
Yeah, we'll update that when we're done, just in
Yeah.
case, because
Okay.
changed it a lot already, and it depends on how many questions we have and if we remove anything else.
And the last thing that I saw was question 12 and B7 at the end are essentially asking the same things.
It is the same.
One is basically saying, do you attend the meetings, and the other says, do you vote at the meetings?
Well, I
Well,
guess
it is
there's
true
only
in
one
question.
meeting a year that there's a vote. But I guess it's unlikely that someone would attend the meetings but not vote at the
Well,
district
question
meeting.
12 is, how often do you typically attend Tilton Northfield Fire Department district meetings? That's one meeting a year. And then The D7
Okay.
is, how frequently do you vote in total Northfield Fire District elections?
So do we want to get rid of D7 then?
Well, elections is different than the annual meeting, although it's, because the elections are tomorrow,
Yep.
the meeting's Monday, it's two different, I can vote or not vote Tuesday, and I can attend or not attend next Monday.
All right, let's leave it then.
D7 was one that we were, when we discussed last time, was one that you were considering getting rid of anyway, so I don't know if that influences you one way or another, but we had talked about if you wanted to cut something, that might be something that we might want to cut.
Do we have, how's our space right now, Sean?
Pretty good. This is the extraneous space that we're using right now that we need to cut. It's not too much, obviously. It's only a few lines. Well, more than that, but not very much. I'd say a little less than a quarter of a page.
Can you go back to question 4, please?
Do we just want to start at the top and work our way down through the questions?
Yeah. Yeah, there's still a few issues we haven't figured out. There were some that I mentioned in what I sent last time and some that we had left over from our last discussion. So a fair amount of those probably will kind of answer some of our later questions about spacing when we get to the end.
Well, on my printout, which I just printed in portrait, it's got like quadruple spacing on question 4 between the different selections.
So it's different than what we're seeing here.
Yeah, significantly.
It might just be the transfer over from it being printed and stuff like that. It's this whole format in Word is kind of like torturing it a little bit. It'll be fine once we actually print it, but this is how it'll look at the moment.
Okay.
So for question 2, C and E, I'm not sure if those dates are correct, and I'm not sure if we want to, put that, phrase it as the station is over X years old versus the station was, built in X year.
I don't think E is accurate.
Yeah, well, because Park Street was built
We
in
built Park Street in
1986.
86.
So I was thinking either like 2010 or 2014,
Well,
given that there was...
No, there was projects before then, Business Park Drive, where J. Jill is, those were all attempts since 1986 to build another fire station.
Between 86 and 08,
Because I thought there were only 2
there was
votes.
no real, because I was a fire commissioner from when, 6 to 9, or 7 to 10, 7 to 10, and we had a plan then. That was, but that's a long distance from 1906, I mean 1986.
So I got this from Mike Robinson. He said as soon as in his mind, as soon as they finished the Park Street station, they knew they were going to have, they knew it wasn't sufficient then, and were planning to go forward from that point.
But there was no proposal at any point
Well,
in time.
Could I just propose this before we get into a all-night discussion about that? Those 2 questions actually, well, D and E, where actually Sean had talked about if we were to get rid of D and E, we talked about those, they're really inconsequential even in my mind. If we got rid of those, let me just throw this out here. If we got rid of those 2, at D7 per se, at the end, would that get us into, would that alleviate the space issue?
Do we
That
have?
would probably be closed anyway.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm just saying, instead of discussing something all night long that we're going to ultimately remove from the survey.
Do we have a space issue?
Yeah. What we're trying
Yes.
to do is reduce the length of the current content. We need to cut something or something.
Even irrespective of the length, I think when we talked last time, we were discussing whether we wanted to keep Q2 at all. And what I was suggesting is that it might make sense to keep it because we weren't sure whether we wanted to or not. It might make sense to keep it as a whole, but reduce the number of items. And I think from our discussion before, these two seemed like the most ones that weren't as vital to know. So that might be helpful in answering some of the other questions that we have left on here about what we want to do. Might get us where we need to get spacing wise, but I think even just in terms of, is it vital for you to know whether people know that even you are trying to get a new fire facility? Is that something that's important for you to know, whether people knew that going into the survey or not? Maybe it is important to you, maybe it's not. But this is kind of the part of the process where we really have to think in terms of, is this something that we really need to know, rather than something that would be nice to know if we could?
I mean, if they're getting the survey because we're looking for information where they want to put the building, one of the questions is, right?
Sure, but what I'm saying is that if that is really important, if these two questions are important facets of finding that overall, getting to that overall finding, then let's keep them in. What I'm suggesting is to make sure that we rigorously interrogate each one of these questions and ask yourselves if it is really important to that goal. And if it is, then we'll keep it and we'll figure out somewhere else to cut everything down to the size we need it to be. But if you think about it a bit more and consider any one of these questions that, maybe this doesn't really matter as much as we thought, then that's something that we should consider cutting.
I think D&E are irrelevant, because look what number 3 is, question 3. If we're going to build, where would we put it? So TNFD is obviously considering building a new fire, does that say facility?
Yeah.
How do you feel about scratching D&E,
I'm fine with scratching them.
Kevin? Are you
I
okay
think
with-
Kevin's,
Yeah, with scratching those two?
Yeah.
Yeah, based on what number 3 says, absolutely.
No, I'm good.
I'm good with that. And I would make the suggestion for letter C, the original portion of Center Street Station, get rid of in Tilton, was built in the 1860s.
I thought it was 1911.
No.
No. They'd want it out.
Can we even shorten it up? I mean, I'm not sure if that line will make, it'll obviously give us another line, but if we.
I was hoping to get rid of that extra.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, because we're asking the question, before today, were you aware of the following facts about Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS, TNFD? The original, so you're asking, were you aware that the Center Street Station is roughly 157 years old of age? I don't know, is 157 years of age.
When it gets that old, I like the date, because to me, 150 years,
Some
when you see
people aren't good at
1860, you go, my God, that was a long time ago.
Right.
But 150 years ago wasn't yesterday.
No, it wasn't.
It doesn't, well, let me ask this, I guess now, to split hairs, to try to get rid of that extra line, do we need to say original portion? I mean, the station was built, or just say the original station was
So
built?
does taking a few words out make a difference in the end?
Yeah.
Well, it will, because it'll drop a line down, you only
That's
use,
what we need to
you only use
do,
a one line opposed to two there, I'm looking at.
eliminate a quarter of a page.
We could also put
I'm
a,
sorry, Sean?
Another thing to bear in mind when we're cutting it, that it's kind of not all space is quite created equal, as you can see.
Oh, yeah,
Keeps-
yeah.
We can, if we really need to, we can move questions around. If we are saying, we really want to keep everything we have and it's just not fitting, we can do stuff like that. But just, that's something to also bear in mind, that in some cases that you're seeing here, sometimes we can't utilize that space too well because it'll run onto 2 pages. Like I said, the kind of let's remove that one word so we get rid of one little line. That's something we can do kind of, I think, at the very end when we're really looking at it and saying, hey, we cut everything, we really wanted to cut everything else we want in here we really want to keep. That's when I can start really getting clever with trying to find space everywhere. But before we get to that point, we really want to do this kind of one last go through and adjudicate all the things we have left remaining, and then we can see whether we need to do that or not. I think it's quite possible that we won't have to.
yeah, let's put a pin into
How
and
much-
keep going through the questions and we can circle back to it.
How much overburdened on space are we relative to?
When we started today, it was about a quarter of a page.
Oh.
It's very, yeah, we made really good progress last time, so we're not in a place where we really need to, I think, worry too much. I think there's still a few things that it seemed likely that you guys might not want to keep everything, so, but like I said, I think we can kind of circle back to that after we've gone through the remaining kind of questions we had from our first talk, and then see whether we need to do anything else, but we very well might not need to.
And what is the actual limit of space? Is it the
It's
size of
4 page.
Yes.
4 pages total, but 1 page is taken up by mailing the
It's a
and then
foldable
from.
mailer.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so
So it's 3 pages of questions and information.
It's the way it's folded, Kevin, the way it's gonna fold up and unfold, then you have to, so you're essentially gonna fold it back up into the size of a number 10 envelope, if I'm not mistaken.
So we've got a 3-pound pail, and we're trying to put 4 pounds in it.
Well, we're trying to put 3 1/8 pounds in it right now. The other day, 2 weeks ago, we were trying to put 7 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And this is how this process works. I mean, normally, honestly, we're making a lot quicker progress than we normally do in these contexts. I've gone through times where we've had like 12 drafts, and it's taken months because, there was a lot more to start with, and it took a lot longer to wean it all down. So this is kind of how the process normally works, and we're getting through it pretty quickly. So it's really fine. This is how it's supposed to proceed.
all right, anyone have a question, an issue with question 3?
I think we went through these last time.
If we're to build a new facility, what would be the problem?
No, I'm just, if no one is concerned with the wording of the question, then we can move to 4.
If you have no preference on number 3,
You skip 4.
am I reading that to say, forget number 4 and go to 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this only makes sense if you just said either Tilton or Northfield. If you don't have a preference, you don't know, then this question is applicable to you.
Any issues with the wording of the options in question 4?
Why is B underlined? Why would you prefer a new facility to be built there, and B is underlined?
It's just word.
It's a word thing, forget
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it's not there.
Yeah, so the
Word
blue lines are
count.
grammatical correction.
There you go.
Skip if you know preference?
If you have.
Skip.
If you have.
Yeah. We'll just say it no preference. Or,
Skip if no preference.
We want to discuss the estimates on 6? Or was that no 7?
well, let's go to, everybody's fine with 4, is that correct?
4 is okay, I think.
All right, so 5?
So
I don't think that.
5 is only 3 choices?
Yep.
yeah. 5 and 6, as you can see here, this was one of our big outstanding things that we didn't decide on 2 weeks ago. We talked about it. So this might be when we want to kind of resolve that and figure out what we'd like to do. It was proposed that maybe we wanted to stack rank these, like what we did with Q7. We might want to switch at 6 orders and add response time to Q6. That was one of the suggestions. Or there was also suggested that we might just not have Q6 at all, and we can just rely on Q5.
So I like the idea of having question 6 be stack ranked, like question 7, and having the emergency response time being included there. Because that, would save us, 1 or 2 lines.
Wait, say that again, Nate, why you would want that stack rate?
So I think for question 6, someone could just put very important for A, B, C, D, and E. Whereas if question 6, you had to rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
They could
that
say
would give us more useful data, and then we might as well, if we're asking what is most important, then we can just include response times in there and get rid of question 5. Because someone will sit, if response times or construction cost is the most important, they will list that as 1. If those are the top 2 important, they'll be listed as 1 and 2.
See, and I was looking at it from the other way, going, if they think overall proposal cost and maintaining a fire station in each town is very important, then they could select those 2 and then.
Yeah. Those are the 2 kind of arguments for what we're talking about. Is the way we have it now gives you a lot of detail in people's kind of absolute value of these things. But what you're talking about as the alternative gives you a good relative idea. And there's downsides and advantages to both, as we're talking about right now. That you can, theoretically, someone could say all of these are important, and then that's pretty much useless to you. But then on the other hand, if someone might say, well, all of these matter to me, and you're telling me that I have to rank one of them as basically not mattering to me, but it does. That's kind of the upside and downside of both those approaches.
And I like the way the survey has multiple different ways of allowing you to answer the different questions. So it's not all, A, B, C, or none of the above on every question.
Right.
I think it lends the survey for more thoughtful reading of the questions and thought process before making your answer because of the different format of questions.
So should we have emergency response times in 6 as well as keeping 5?
Another option that you could do that we didn't talk about last time is because based on what you talked about then, I think we were saying that, well, proposal cost, we mentioned that up here, location of those facilities specifically, not in terms of which town it's in. I think you guys told us there's not a lot of discretion. You don't have a lot of wiggle room there, so maybe we could consider cutting these 2 and just saying, these other factors. We just asked about emergency response times and cost construction here, but of these 3, are these important or unimportant to you? Just on their own in absolute terms rather than relatively. That's another option that we could pursue.
So well, I guess it depends on what that actually means, but C says maintaining a fire station in each town. Is it anyone's opinion that that's what we do right now?
Yeah, a
We
lot of people
have a
have
fire station in each town. I mean, there's a physical district presence in each town. I mean, the call firefighters.
Yeah, there's
respond from that.
only people in one of them.
Right, but we're just trying to ascertain, is that, how important is that to you?
So is it the wording of the question that's wrong, or? I can see maybe, Kevin, if you took out the word maintaining and replaced that with, maintaining implies that you have stations in both towns.
Which we
And
do
while
have physical.
While we physically have buildings, they're not anywhere near the same.
Right, they're not
That's
the
for what they
same
provide.
purpose or anything.
Well then, should we remove consolidating into a single facility? Because
Right. Do you want to use facility here to keep consistent with the other items in this block? Would that solve the issue? Because they are presumably both facilities, if not full-on stations.
Right. Yeah, I'm fine with that. You guys?
Just tell me that one more time, please.
So we would switch fire station to fire facility. That's the word we use in B and D here. And presumably that accurately describes both buildings. And that would even give some consistency across the block, so that would seem to be a good idea.
So is facility is different than a fire station? In our case?
Possibly. I mean, you guys would know better than me. But that's the kind of verbiage that we use elsewhere. But is that correct? Would you describe both buildings as facilities, or does that not work either?
I mean,
We
if
call
we're
it
gonna
Park
discuss it
Street
as a change.
Station.
It's,
We do call it Park Street Station, absolutely, you're right.
Right, so I don't understand.
All right, let me ask this question. If you took the word maintaining out and changed it to locating a fire station in East Town?
or keeping a fire station.
We have one located.
Maintaining, keeping
Yes,
it
I
all
wonder if it's,
synonymous with each other.
so maybe C is okay, but the word facility in D should be fire station. Consolidate into a single fire station.
So
Well,
you're-
it's a facility, it's a
so-
play on words, what am I
So,
doing?
a lot of people think the building is the fire station, and other people think it's not really a fire station unless people are there. And I
That's-
think that's the point you're getting at.
That's what
And I
that's-
think maybe that's something that needs to be meted out here. Or maybe we'd say, you know, manned or unmanned might need to be added, or staffed or politically correct, staffed or unstaffed, full-time,
Maintaining a manned fire station in each town, is that what you think?
staffed, I would say staffed, because manned is not
Oh,
politically
oh my
correct
God.
anymore.
Well, I think the point of C was maintaining the status quo of both
Oh.
towns having some kind of
That's a good
physical,
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
you know, district presence. And then I'm concerned about deconsolidating into a single facility, because like, if we were to build a new station here or at some, you know, street in Northfield, like, I don't know, Ken Partridge has a bunch of property, you know, wherever, we may not necessarily decommission Park Street and consolidate into a single facility.
That's all something I think we might be losing focus here.
That's
This is
beyond this.
This is a
That's-
survey that we're trying to ascertain this
Right,
information.
that's what we're trying to figure out.
So, using that, what you were just saying, Nate, are we somewhat misleading them in maintaining a fire station in each town? So now I can think, oh, we do have a fire station in each town, which is not correct. And then, or do we want to consolidate into a single facility? And I would go, well, why would I want to do that? We already have two stations. Why would I want to consolidate to one?
Yeah, why would I get rid of?
And if I have no idea of how the whole fire district in Tilton Northfield works, is that misleading?
I almost think if you get rid of question 6 and just stay with question 5, that really is the crux of the nature.
I
That was one of the
accept that.
proposals.
Get rid of 6 in its entirety?
Yeah,
Yes, so that was one of,
The proposal cost is already up in 5, right?
yep.
Cost of construction?
And then
Location.
question 7 has a lot of stuff that kind of overlaps with question 6.
yes, 7 is where we get into the specific proposals that would kind of be kind of weighing the different items that we're talking about in Q5 and Q6 and putting them into actual, tangible terms.
On the possible answers for the questions of number 6, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 98.
Yeah.
What is that about?
So that's because don't know is usually put at the very end numerically. It's a really like old-timey convention with survey research. It's make it easier for everybody. Mostly our people, we're going to be entering in the information so that they're very clear that that's effectively, it's like not a substantive answer. It's qualitatively different than like the scale that we see here. We want to make it as abundantly clear to them that they said don't know and make sure they entered don't know, not like 5 or something like that, because that tends to cause confusion. So it's just an old convention that we use since.
And is there
Not
some, I guess I'll say reason that has a number 1 is very important, and if you go to question number 7, 1 being your most preferred and 6 being your least preferred, why aren't they all the same? Why aren't they
So
Does it
question
not- does it
seven,
not amount to the same
question
thing?
7, you're ranking the entire thing. In question
Yeah.
6, you're ranking where that specific thing is in your mind.
Yeah, you're more rating it than you're ranking it. So there's different forms of questions. In Q6, you're being asked which of these options do you want to pick. In Q7, you're asked which of these is your first choice, and second, and so on.
Okay, all right.
My only concern about getting rid of question 6 is, in question 5, we're asking you to choose between response times and cost. But we never ask you about if you have a preference over location. And then in question 7, we give you some scenarios, and again, we've already narrowed it down, the location down to you. Is it important for someone to have an opinion on the location? Is it important for us to know that? Do we care?
So I think that's handled further up where we asked if you would prefer the station be built in Tilton or Northview. Because if you care about the location, that's probably the relevant reason. Because if you care about the location because of cost of land, that's really cost, not location. If you care about the location because of how far it is from your house, that's response times less than the location, I would argue.
Location really, response time and location really, I mean, they go hand in hand, because that's gonna get ironed out. I think we might be losing a little bit of focus on, I mean, we wanna figure out people's opinions of how they wanna do things, but a lot of I think we might be drilling down too much into what's gonna happen at meetings. Because even if location's really, if it's hugely a part of someone's opinion on something, it's still gonna be, subject to available land and so forth like that. So, I mean, it's almost misleading, like what Sean, he said, maybe we could get rid of A and B, which I would agree, overall the proposed cost, someone's gonna answer up above, is the cost, which is more important to you? Well, we know, look, I don't wanna say I know whatever is in the minds of everybody, but I think anybody taking the survey, cost is always, anybody who pays taxes, it's foreknown that, it's a foregone conclusion, they care about cost. I mean, that's not, I don't think we're really drilling down to find out if the community cares about their taxes.
Yeah, I think there's some merit to that. The vast majority of the time, people say cost is very important. So that's probably something that we could afford to cut because a fair amount of people are going to say very important. The only reason that it might be useful is because if you want to compare that item compared to the other four of this block, it's helpful to have it on the same scale in the same place and say, hey, people care about consolidating into a single facility, but everyone cares about the proposal costs. So that's something that we have to bear in mind more than any of these other items we ask. But you probably, as you say, you probably already know that.
Right. That's why we don't have a new station yet. It always fails to cost.
My concern with consolidating into a single facility is like interpretation. Like some people might be like, oh sure, I want the full-time services to move to Park Street, and other people might be like, oh, I want the call services to move to Center Street or wherever the new location is. And
Well, that's in 7. I mean, we're looking at all those specifics in 7. So again, we're looking to cut it down a little bit. I know A and B would take a chunk out, and that's again why I was looking at those, because we asked those in several other places. We've asked
the other thing we could do is we could ask, if we're considering we can't do A and B, we could, and C and D in some ways are kind of antithetical to one another. We could change this to a question that's like Q5 and just ask, which do you prefer, maintaining a fire facility or whatever we want to call it in each town, or just consolidating down into one facility? And as you guys say, of course, that comes with a lot of complications of how you actually put that into practice. But that would at least give you an idea of what people think of that in the abstract. The only thing we would lose out on there is the accommodating the future needs. This one I included in there because a couple different people mentioned it in that kind of raw material you guys sent over. It's a little kind of vague on purpose, I know, to kind of gauge whether people want to just address your needs immediately or ones in the future, but I would guess people probably wouldn't engage with that quite as much as we might hope. So that might be a solution there, is that we could cut this down. We could probably fit it onto this page, which would make use of that new space that we have here. And that would gain us a lot of space if we just kind of effectively replace Q6 with a version of it that looks like Q5 and is of a similar size. And that might get at what you're interested in.
Can you show us what that might look like?
Yeah, so I'm doing it on the fly, so bear with me on that.
Sure.
But it would be something kind of like if we had Q6 and you said, you know, which of the following it would be more important to you? Obviously, just doing this off the fly, so we could very easily, we definitely would change all of this, but then say, maintaining a fire facility in each town, consolidating into a single facility. So a little bit, we can get it all into one line. So something like that. Again, could change the wording here as needed, but this being the idea that it'd be like Q5, where we're just saying, here are these two things, they're in conflict, right? Realistically, the more I look at this, the more I'm saying, it'd be weird if someone said very important to both of these, right? Because these are mutually exclusive, effectively, I think. I don't quite understand how that would work otherwise. So realistically, if we're thinking that we've already covered this, and this one might not be as important as we might have thought originally, we might just be able to create this question that directly, you know, frames those as opposed to one another, and then asking people which of these is just more important to you.
Right, and when you
Or
eliminate
maybe they're not actually both possible, so you say, which of these would you prefer? That would be even simpler.
I think that's a very elegant solution.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like
that. That works for me.
What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
And I think that might,
think that's-
that alone gives us all the
That's
space
going
we
to make
need.
it for space-wise, too. I
Yeah, one of the
believe.
things we were discussing a little bit last time was kind of realizing what answer we were looking to get and trying to propose different methods, different ways of asking the question to get to the answer. And with this, you know, we can eliminate 7 or 8 lines and really get to what we're interested in.
Get to the crux of it.
So now on Q6 number 1,
What was that?
I think you should take out the word fire because we're not using it anywhere else.
Okay.
Maintaining the facility. There's no question it's a fire station. You know what I mean?
How do you feel about scratching question 6 down?
The rest of
Well, the
it.
bottom-
Yeah, I'm
second
fine.
Yeah.
Kevin?
So this would be gone, yeah.
Yeah.
The answers come from other places.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So yeah, we're pretty much there. You know, we can add some stuff if you need it, but yeah, that did it right there. That covers down.
Go down to the about you thing, please.
Yeah.
I need to be convinced that that entire section is at all necessary.
All of the demographics?
How old are you? It doesn't make any difference how old I am.
I'm sorry, what was that?
How long have I lived here? It's irrelevant. I may not live here when the bond's paid.
Yeah, this one is one that we definitely recommend keeping in there because that's one where we usually see some pretty clear distinctions. I mean, it depends obviously on the situation, but often we see that. So that's one we usually recommend keeping in there, just because we normally see people having pretty divergent opinions, whether they live there for a long time or whether they're relative newcomers.
The whole thing, Kevin, is like, so when you do a survey, the survey is to ascertain what what people want. And then when you look at the demographics, because if you're gonna market something, and look, we have to get into marketing. We have to sell our presentations or our proposals a lot better than we have in the past. And you market to people according to their demographics. That's,
This is to help us learn
Yeah.
what our demographics are so we can market to them better than what we have in the past.
The other element with a survey like this is that you really want to include demographics to get an idea of who answered, because we won't, you know, we don't have an idea this person from this address sent it back, so we can check them off our list. We just don't know exactly who answered without demographics. So having that's really important, because usually with surveys like this, with town surveys now, we have a hard time often getting people to respond. And the people who do respond often are people who tend to be really highly engaged in the town. And those tend to be people with higher levels of education, people who have higher levels of income, people who have lived in the town for a longer amount of time, and older people. And it all, in some ways, is intuitive, and it's a pretty clear pattern we see in the state. So we want to be able to measure that as much as possible. There's not really much we can do in terms of forcing people to do the survey who don't want to do it. But at the very least, we want to be able to tell you guys, okay, so here are the results. And for context, these are the people who did the survey. And we know that's not going to perfectly match the town or the district. But at the very least, then you'll be aware of that, and you can bear that in mind. If we don't have any demographics, then we can just say, well, the people who answered said this. Who are these people who answered? We don't really know. Best guess is they're these groups of people more than others, but we have no way of really telling you definitively. This gives you that extra context, which is really important.
So when it comes to the surveys coming back, can you tell me, will you be able to tell me how many people 55 and above think response time is more important than cost?
Exactly, yeah. So that breakdown by demographics, as we were talking about before, is also really important. That you can see just differences among groups about what they think is important or what they'd like to do. That can also help kind of guide your decision making.
So we've met our space requirements, is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, then we want to kind of go through this here. But yeah, the overall length doesn't need to constrict any more than it is right now. We can still change things as needed, and we can add in probably a question or two if there's anything that's missing. But yeah, we don't need to cut out anything overall any more than we already have.
I had a question on question 10.
I just want to check with Q7, is everyone happy with these items? These are the ones with these kind of options. These I constructed based on the information you guys sent over originally, but this is me doing my best guess of what are actual feasible options. So I just want to make sure that all of these are things that you're happy with, that there's nothing missing, that none of these are not feasible, not workable, or that there isn't anything that needs to be tweaked here, because this is kind of Q7 is the real crux of the survey in terms of here are actual tangible options, what would people prefer? So I just want to make sure that this works for you guys and it's exactly what you'd like to know.
Has anything taken place that we know of that guarantees that land's available to us, that we're going to get it?
Yeah, we have an agreement.
Yeah.
We're just beating out the legal language of it right now.
Could C and D be combined just to build a new headquarters, its station at Sanborn Road, and renovate Park Street Station?
I like the two questions. I didn't know if I was reading it, how long would I sit there and have to figure out what the difference is between the two? And I don't know if you can highlight, just the no living facilities versus living facilities. So it's easier for the reader to,
I think
however you think that should be handled. But I think if I was reading that and go, wait a minute, that was.
they're almost the same. It's almost like you have to bold no in section
We can do
C, so that it stands out.
That works. Yeah, it's not quite the same. And we can switch these if that helps. We can make this one C and make this one D, and that way they're kind of, this one's the leading one, and this one is okay, that, but no living facilities.
But would we make renovations where we do one but not the other?
Yeah, that's an option.
Is anybody gonna pick F, really?
Somebody.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, that would be the reason to do the survey, to
Dude,
see
I'll
if anybody
I'll
does.
tell you right now, I've heard people like say, why are we even looking at a new station? Everything works fine the way it is. So I can foresee that. Not many.
You would like that nobody would.
I can't imagine. It's like, asking
Sometimes
someone,
you
do
have
you
to
like breathing?
You don't know anything.
But I can see that individual going through the whole survey saying, cost, cost, cost. Everything that has to deal with cost, that's my concern. F, don't change
No
it.
change.
That's possible, and that's why we have Q8 here, to try to get at a little bit more, if people answer that way, so that we're not just kind of blindly saying, oh, just no, 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 no. We're trying to get them to elaborate a little bit here in Q8 for those people.
But it is their opinion.
I think 7 is fine like it is with
Okay,
the bold.
all right.
Yeah, there's
We
nothing.
can move on. I just want to make sure it was good. I didn't think I seem to remember we didn't look at it too intensely last time. And like I said, I just wanted to make sure that this worked for all of you.
Sean, would you recommend swapping C and D order because you lead off with the more positive verbiage?
Yeah, we can easily do that.
I mean, that's just, I think I would do it that way.
That's a good point.
It makes that one easy.
Well, he's really good at that.
Where the hell do you learn how to do that?
He does it every day.
Yeah, well, I actually don't. We don't really do paper surveys anymore, to be honest. It's word, like I said, it's kind of torture work to make this happen, but
I
yeah.
haven't done any of that. I had a blank page.
Okay, so question 8 is related to F of the previous question.
Yeah, 8 is just if they say that they don't want to make any changes to current facilities, if that's their first choice. So, like I said, trying to get at those people who are just, implacably opposed, try to figure out why they feel that way.
Does that need more wording there in the instructions for question 8? Answer only if first choice in question above or question 7 is F. Or
Yeah, if maybe Q7. Yeah. That'll work.
That's all.
So
Choices, that's a good question.
F on 7 is make no changes. Q8 is why, and then we have another F that says no reason. I don't want to do it, there's no reason.
I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, I know it's silly to put in there, but I'm sure somebody will just circle that and just say, oh, that's fine.
I don't want to tell you why.
Yeah, exactly. But so it's, you gotta have it in there as kind of a safety valve, but hopefully people will elaborate, especially because we put in an other here. If there's something that we didn't mention that they have some thoughts about, they can write it in right there.
How would you be, should that be how would you be likely to vote? How likely would you be to vote?
So that would be, if we switched it, it would be a little bit different. That would be more in terms of, would you vote for these specific things? This is kind of like, it would only be in a sense of voting yes. Whereas this, we're saying there's a possibility of them saying that they definitely not.
Okay.
We could switch it up that way, but I think this might be a clearer way of saying it. Like, we could say just how would you vote, but that would be simpler, but it also kind of elides the fact that I think a fair amount of people will say, I don't know, I hadn't thought about it. And we're trying to get people as much as possible away from just saying don't know, because that's not all that helpful. So we're trying to kind of encourage people that if they're just leaning in one direction or not, to still give us that response.
Sean, would you need to reverse C and D here as well?
Yeah, we can do that.
if the election were to be held tomorrow, of these people, who would you be most likely to vote for? And then when they said, you know, how likely would you be to vote for that single person if the election, you know, on election day, or whatever?
And if you recall, the idea here is to get at, it's a little bit redundant in some ways, but it can be really interesting to see whether people are just, that they vote for all of these things. This is kind of the opposite side of what we talked about before with the benefits of ranking versus the benefits of just selecting a response for each question in each item in a block. Because you theoretically could have someone say, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, but that could mean that they would vote no on 2 through 4, or it could mean they could vote yes on 1 through 4. And that's important, you know, an important distinction for you guys to know whether, okay, so it might be somebody's third choice, but they're still going to vote for it because they think something needs to be done. Or they might say, if I can't get my first choice, I'm not voting for it at all. So that's the idea with Q9, is it gives you that extra information.
It's a good.
Should we add, you know, build a new headquarters station at a third location or another property, similar to how we have that in question 7?
How is that?
The reason I omitted that is because it's not like an actual thing that would be theoretically on a ballot.
Okay,
it would be, you know, presumably that specific location. So that's why I omitted there.
That's fair, because I guess these are the only options we have currently. And so for 10, can B and D be combined?
I was going to ask, what are we trying to get to on B? It's only a garage and has no accommodations or staff. Accommodations being what?
So I think
Casinos and swimming pools, or?
I think this is kind of like,
There's no
what is a fire
accommodations
station?
for staff? There's no,
Living, there's no kitchen, there's no,
But
It
saying
has
it's
a-
unstaffed implies all that, correct?
well, that's it, I'm not sure. I mean, you and I may say that it implies that, but.
But so A, the Center Street Station is manned 24/7.
That makes
B, the Park Street Station is only a garage and is unmanned or unstaffed. And then you wouldn't,
So I see what you're getting at. It's unstaffed and has no accommodations to be staffed. So how do you
No accommodations for staff, not for staff.
I think,
well, so
I mean,
if
we're
we're
gonna
saying
say
people know it's a garage, do you know it's unstaffed? But if it's just a garage, I'm not sure if we could save a line by just having that be.
Oh, we don't need to say that.
Yeah.
Well, let's
right, but I mean, I would
consider changing B, as Kevin says, and has no accommodations for staff, and then scratch D.
There you go.
All right, that works for me.
Didn't we take the word manned out somewhere for a reason?
yeah, it should, if you say manned, it shouldn't be manned, it should be personnel or staff.
So A should say, is staff 24/7?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
He just changed it.
I blinked and it
He's
was
faster than you. He's faster than you, he types faster than you speak, Kevin.
This is why we're going through this. Good
I was
catch.
hanging out with him for a day and learned how to do something.
Then on B, Sean, change it, has no accommodations for staff,
Okay. Oh, for staff. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
and then scratch D.
Scratch D. All right. Perfect.
And then,
On H, we need to say neither fire station / facility or something.
I think we've used facility pretty much throughout, so we probably want to stick with that.
Yeah, either facility.
should G and I be one question? It requires 4 responders, and we have 4 responders. on duty 24/7?
No. Keep it separate.
Because this is, were you aware?
Yeah, we're.
Did you know?
Okay.
Their
Where do you see
level
it?
of,
I'm missing it somewhere.
That's,
their acquaintance with the fire district, fire department.
so question 10, before today, were you aware of the following facts?
Those are very different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the American Heart Association cardiac arrest says that 6 people is the minimum amount of people you should have to be successful.
That keeps changing. Someday it'll be 8. Because it wasn't always 6.
Someday it'll be a robot, not people.
That's the current thing from
All right, we'll update
the
that.
association.
Well, we thought we were all that in a bag of chips when we had 2 on-day coverage.
And never went.
And now it's not like that.
Is everyone good with question 10?
Yeah.
I'm good.
So Sean just changed on G from 4 responders to 6.
Yeah, got it.
Well,
No, I
Oh, no.
I'm not sure we want to make that change.
No.
I don't leave 4 there.
We don't need to make that change.
Yeah.
That's for cardiac arrest. There are
At least 4.
At least 4. Cardiac arrest, the AHA, American Heart Association, says 6. But we have many other emergencies that aren't cardiac arrest.
Obviously, Sean, you need to re-letter those because we removed D.
Yeah, I'll do that. I just don't want to confuse you now.
But in the case of like we had the other day with the drowning with the kids, we used way more than 6
Yeah, yeah.
to make that successful. That was unbelievable.
So question 11, that remain unchanged?
I don't see any changes there from you personally.
Do
Well,
any of these facts make you more or less how would it make you less likely?
It's possible, believe it or not. Like there's always times when it makes no sense to me, but people say, "Oh, that makes me less likely to believe that." You know, it happens.
What Dennis said, I'm going to circle cost, and no, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to circle less
You
likely.
have those little anarchists out there that want to rail against the system every chance they get, so.
Yeah, it's basically just for balance. If we're going to ask, does it make you more likely? We usually should also ask, does it make you less likely? People will get mad if you don't for the small handful that say less likely. And it just kind of works better for the surveys for it to be better balanced. In
I mean,
that.
to me, that is either yes or no. It's not.
Yeah, that's another way of going about it. That would be a simpler method. The only thing here is that it does allow for a little bit of gradation with the much more and somewhat more. Someone might, for instance, not have known any of these things and say, oh, well, okay, knowing that, I guess that really makes me think you need new facilities. And somebody else might be a little bit more milquetoast about it and say somewhat. And like I said, the less likely, it's silly, but a couple people will say it. And if we have a yes or no, those will be conflated with people who in this structure would say no difference. So it might be useful to be able to separate those out.
I think it's fine.
I think he's done this before, that guy.
I hope so.
that's why we hired him. Okay, how about 12?
I'm fine with 12.
13,
I'm good with that.
14, 15.
Wait, don't we have more than 5 times twice there?
Oh yeah, good catch.
Okay, all right. I'm like,
We could put more than 10 times for some people.
Yeah, we can't do that. I think that was the idea originally, and I just changed that. So
Should have
Might
a
be.
frequent flyer.
yeah, I mean, we have the space, so maybe let's make this 6 to 10, and make that one more than 10. Might space out, or might give us a little bit more variation towards the top end.
It will-
Seems like a lot. Who knows?
It might seem like a lot, but believe me,
Oh,
And I was
Okay.
gonna
Well, there you go.
say, if
Yeah.
we get 5, and then you said we get 10.
So,
Sean, do you have to have the item numbers in front of those, because with the numbers,
Yeah,
that makes
It
it
is a-
really hard to read.
yeah.
Could we make them A, B, C, D?
We can. Normally I try not to in these circumstances, but you have a point that it's probably going to create more confusion with just this. So just for this, we'll just do this. Nobody will really care. Normally the letters are when it's a select all apply situation, but you're right, it would be confusing. So,
We
we'll
could
just
do
that.
Roman numerals.
Yeah, we can do that. But Roman numerals,
Well,
I like them. Do it, yeah.
given that, where you use 98 but don't know or not sure, and you put
Yeah.
G, should it be like Z or something else, or double G,
Yeah.
double Z? Or?
It's like outside the convention already, and it's weird enough. I'll just make sure to tell the guy who's overseeing all of the data entry, just that that's going to be a little bit unusual, and just make sure that they are aware of that. But you're right. I think it's more likely to cause confusion with response takers and just look strange to them than it's probably worth it.
I mean, I guess alternatively, if we have the space, we could do it. We could spell out the numbers, so it would be
Yeah.
numeral run one time, 2 to 3
Yeah.
times, but
Yeah, we can. People generally prefer just the numbers with a format like this, so probably makes sense just to kind of, bend the rules a little bit and just have the letters there for now.
Right.
I don't think anyone will really notice. This is just more me sticking to my very precise kind of conventions with these sorts of things, but I think it's probably just more practical to do this.
This works.
all right. Well, I'm
So,
good.
what's next? This gets printed,
Question 15 is next.
got 15. Anybody want to change 15?
let's do, was 15, let me see. Generally speaking, how would you rate current emergency response times?
Everybody.
Oh, that shouldn't be
I
times.
think
It should
there
be-
should
it
be
should-
only one choice here, which would be number 1.
Shouldn't it be emergency response services or?
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to have, what am I trying to say?
Had an experience?
You'd have to have, well, I know our ambulance is good and the service is fantastic, but I don't know it from me having.
We're not asking you that question, we're asking you just generally speaking, your opinion of it. Because maybe you know somebody that used it and it related that to you.
Okay.
And if
So
you don't
that's
know,
where
you
you
can
maybe
answer
got their
98.
opinion.
Don't know, not sure.
Yeah, and Q14 helps give Q15 some context because people who say 0, they'll still probably, most of them will still give you a rating for these. But you'll just know that that's an opinion that's less informed by personal experience than people who might say more than 10 times. So that's kind of an interesting, helpful kind of interaction between those two questions, is to see the more informed opinions and the ones where more people are saying they're probably good. That's actually what we tend to see more often, is people kind of default to very good or good when they don't really know. They kind of presume that things must be doing pretty well, and if they weren't, they'd be hearing about it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see that in this case.
Same thing, is if somebody's using us more than 10 times and they don't say very good, why do you keep calling us?
Right.
Well, I mean, I could see a situation where you have someone more than 10
Yeah.
times saying the professionalism is very poor
So if you think about
because
it, everybody but
they
Nate,
keep getting picked
all of
up.
us in here but Nate have been fire commissioners. I don't know how, if you guys have ever used it, I've never used the services. But the 4 of us would answer this question very differently. If we put 0, I'm gonna put 0 and I will answer it accordingly, just having been a commissioner. And I'm gonna assume that the other 3 of you who serve as commissioners, have served as commissioner, currently serve it, would probably answer the same way. So, just to validate that.
Okay, everyone good with 15?
Yes.
What happens with additional comments? How are they filtered?
So we'll have the interviewers, the people who are, well, they're not interviewers, that's the normal job. We'll have the people entering the data. They'll just type in the comments as best they can, and then you will get them in the appendix at the end of the survey after we've kind of given you all the breakdowns and the responses to these close-ended questions. You can just look through there and see what people have to say. It's a good thing to include really on any survey. It's just, you know, people are generally going to have thoughts. Most of them won't, but some people will. And giving them a specific place to channel those thoughts is generally preferable, because if you don't, they will find some way to let you know. They'll email you, they'll write it in the margins on a paper survey, they'll do something to let themselves be known. So giving them a nice little box to kind of contain all of their comments in a good place to hopefully make it as legible as possible as well is usually a good call.
Is it known who answered how?
No.
No,
It's
in fact, we won't even.
right?
There is a distinction between surveys that are anonymous and confidential. Often people conflate those two, but they're actually different. Something's anonymous if even we, as the people administering the survey, can't connect it to the people who answered the survey, and that's the case in this survey. Other surveys we do when we send out like an email survey to people who we have emails on already. Those are confidential, in which we're not going to tell the client who answered and how they answered, but we would know, and we can theoretically connect their response to their individual credentials. But in this case, we won't. These will just be paper surveys that we're getting back in the mail and collecting and entering ourselves. So we won't know. And like I said, now that we've got to the demographics, that's one of the reasons it's so important, is so that we can get an idea of who's answered, and crucially then intuiting who hasn't, so that you have that context when you're using the results.
Okay.
All right.
How do I take this survey if I'm blind?
That we don't really have provisions for. If we did have a case in which somebody wanted to take the survey, we could figure out a way for them to call in. I'm not aware of exactly a case in which that's happened, but we could handle it, where effectively we would have one of the people who otherwise might be entering data. Their normal job most of the time is being interviewers on the phone. So we would effectively have them pretend as if the survey was a phone survey and read aloud to them and report their responses as if they were doing it on paper.
How would a blind person know they got the survey? I mean, like, I think it's in the same vein of, like, if a blind person is getting their mail, someone has to be reading them their mail.
Unless they get Braille now.
How do they know they're at the bank where there's Braille on the ATM, drive up ATM?
Most people with disabilities have something in place. I mean, if you know, to receive any kind of service. I mean, everybody gets mail. If you have a mailbox, to Nate's point, it's going to come in, and they generally have something in their life set up for it. And if not, then we recommend them to their vocational rehabilitation offices so that they can. That's my wheelhouse.
We good?
Any other comments or questions on this? We'll have Sean finalize it.
Yeah, so I'll go through it. It's great. We actually have a little bit of extra space, which is good. That way I can give it a little bit more room for people to play with. So it's a little less squished, which is always great. But things are looking quite good. The questions, even kind of on each page, came out in pretty good places. Nothing's running onto a second page. So really just kind of tiny little fixes to make everything look good. And I'll have my colleague give it a once-over to make sure there weren't any kind of tiny little things that need to be fixed. But yeah, the bulk of the survey design will be done. So good job, everybody.
What's the next step?
So, since none of us can really print this appropriately, is there a problem with, once you get this all squared away, sending me a printed copy so that I can pass it out to the fire commissioners and the building committee and let them look at the actual document?
In its real format.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's a
think
good
we should
idea.
also get a final copy digitally before that happens, just to make sure we don't want to, like, twist any of the wording, because, like, if we get an email sometime this week and then, you know, we all read through and, you know, we might find spelling issues or something, but
So Sean, you can send that to the chief?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, awesome. Very good.
That's awesome.
Well, we won't hold you any longer on this evening, so thank you very much for your help.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
thanks, Sean.
Right.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right.
That little speaker works really well.
Yeah.
It is. They gave me minutes, but I'm trying to remember if I brought them with me. But all the crap that I was running around with, or did I leave them on the seat in the car, or did I leave them in the office?
We have this
Well, you're looking
thing.
for minutes. Let's discuss this. This is a handout that I gave out tonight. And just so you know.
Yep.
And because I'm not going to be at the district meeting,
I
talked with Tim.
I actually have this. I can put this up on the screen.
I talked with Tim about presenting just an overview of what we've done over the last year, more as a reminder that we do exist and that we are working hard. And these were kind of the highlights that I came up with. And in talking with Tim tonight, he suggested that we, rather than read this at the district meeting, post it on the website. And I guess what I want to do is get, if this is going to be a statement by the building committee, I want everyone to read it, modify it, and update it or whatever, so that we're all in agreement and we can post this on the website, and then Tim can just give a short blurb at the district meeting that it's available for people to look at if they want. It doesn't have to be a part of the evening's presentation.
Did you send this as an email, or do we just have the physical copies?
I can send it to you by email if you want.
Okay.
I haven't yet.
So that could be, and I can put it on the screen, right? Done at the meeting, the same way.
Yeah. Here's my issue with going to that level at the meeting is that I think the meeting's going to be packed with things to discuss. And this would be best left to the end of the meeting so that conversation doesn't get diverted from the other more pressing,
So at the end where it says any other business to come to the
Right.
meeting?
when everybody's already gone, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, we can do that in addition to putting it on the website. It's really up to you guys.
Or we could just highlight some points in here, and I can put this document or this edited document on the website for people to look at their leisure.
So will you, I think it's in the beginning, right? When you have the big screen and you go over your statistical
The
data.
PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, that word, PowerPoint. Is that something that you're going to do again this year?
Yes, but Commissioner Sattler is really going to speak to it more
So
so
Kevin,
than I.
this was my original intent. When last meeting, or at some point, I asked Paul if he wanted to, provide an update to the district. And Paul was like, told me at that time that he wouldn't be able to be at the meeting. So then I asked him, well, maybe he could give me some information that could be presented on his behalf. And he provided this, and in thinking about it, it's like, all right, where would you present this? So would you present it at the end as a other business? Would you print it out and have it as a handout? Would you include it in the slideshow? And my thought was exactly as Paul said. This is more informational. It's not really to cause any questions to be asked at the meeting and have a dialogue about it.
Right, so it's really not meeting business,
Right.
right?
So my thought, and it's good that we're having this conversation, would be to add a slide in the slideshow. And just for your education, we're going to print out the slideshow and have that as a handout at the meeting. And we're not going to go through every single slide. And we're going to refer to the handout as additional information so that you can refer back to it if you have questions during the meeting. And then additional information that may be of interest as we go through the warrant article. But we're not going to go through every slide. But this slide I would. And I was thinking of putting it at the front. Yeah, so slide number 4. And I would call that like building committee update, maybe add another word there in the title. And so this was just, I spent 2 minutes writing that out.
Something happened.
Okay, so you're not, yeah, you just want to put that, you don't want to put all of this.
I don't want to put all of that out there. I just want, so I just spent 2 minutes saying, all right, the building committee continues to work towards a recommendation. The design team at Lorero Building Construction has been contracted. Geotechnical surveys conducted, space needs study developed. A survey of residents is being finalized, and those might need to be worded better. And then more information can be found on the website.
So that is a synopsis of this.
Kind of, yeah. And then refer them out to the website where in the building committee page on the website, you can look at this.
Right, so it's already done, that's all, that's good.
But I'm just asking, does that seem like a good way of doing this?
Absolutely, because I think any more would conflate issues that you want to take care of at the district
You
meeting.
don't want to get, in that meeting, you don't want to get off on a tangent about
Yeah.
Exactly.
stuff that we know
If
nothing
they
about.
read this whole document at the district meeting, there's going to be questions started to be thrown out.
Absolutely.
And it's going to take, I mean,
It's going to be a whole
It
thing.
could take.
11:30, 12 o'clock maybe?
Yeah, we don't want
Before you
to.
get to Article 1.
So,
I mean, I guess,
so I guess,
do we want to include the building committee slide, or do we just want to have the document available on the TNFD website?
Well, I mean, it is a brief, I don't know if you want to, look, this
I
committee
think
is.
we're not going to elaborate on it, we're just going to
Right.
say it and move on.
But
There'll
this
be
committee is part of the
then
fire
we're
district's.
going to go there, and then
efforts.
we're going to go there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, no, I think that's.
I'm happy with that.
how do you guys feel about posting this on the website? Do you want input on it? Do you want to review it, make changes, additions, whatever, before it gets posted on the website?
I'm good, it's a synopsis of everything we've done, it's just,
I mean, doesn't have to be posted.
I would keep everything as
Tomorrow?
vague as possible. This is what we did, and frankly, if a lot of people really want answers to something, maybe it'll encourage people to come to these meetings.
So this,
how that works.
Hey, I'm just saying, you know what?
this should be available as something very near it, because you're gonna get someone to go, how long you guys been doing this? And that's what you've done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. This
Okay,
should be available on.
or something like this. I think there's questions in here. When I read it, I think of some questions I would ask if I were a resident right away. And maybe I want to massage this so that, look at the website.
Well, how about if you guys, because this doesn't need to be on the website before the,
Yeah, I would suggest we wait till.
you guys want to review it,
Yeah.
make any changes, additions, modifications, and we'll put a statement by the entire building committee on the website at the
And I
appropriate
certainly
time.
would get this out as a handout.
No.
When, should we include membership changes? Because I'm pretty sure I wasn't on this committee in April.
It was
The-
from the beginning.
The website does have, does it have all the, yeah, the website
It has
has,
all these documents.
Has-
I put them in order of that they were,
No, just, my point is like, should we state, so-and-so joined in, May, June,
I don't
what
think
have
that's
you?
necessary.
it does
Because then
list
you're
all
gonna
the
get into
numbers.
all the changes and, yeah, no.
it does list the members, but it doesn't, it lists the current members, not everybody that's been on it, not.
Because the entire membership has rolled.
Just about, yeah.
Were you in the beginning?
Yeah, they'd come in and come out,
In
and come back
19?
in, and
And it was you and Lisa and, oh, you were on that committee back in 19.
Well, this is the 2021 committee, right?
That was,
Oh,
But it's a rolling,
It's one and the same.
it's the same, well, it's supposed to be the same focus.
Okay, so we're all in agreement. We're gonna massage this and put it on the website. I'll email a copy to Lisa and to our two non-existent firefighter members.
I can email a copy of it to everybody right now.
Is
You will?
I can, yeah.
Okay, no,
Lisa still alive?
she was not gonna, she said
I think
at
she's in
last meeting she was
Florida.
gonna miss this meeting.
So she's gonna come back, join us again.
so, Paul, you want the chief to send it out to all the members and ask them for comments?
Yes.
Okay.
That's this, correct?
Yep.
All right, so next meeting. So I suggest that we take some time off because of all the district meetings coming up.
So we go into April then.
So our next scheduled meeting would have been March 25th. And then after that, April 8th.
Paul, you weren't going to be able to be at that March 28th.
Correct.
April 8th, that's the eclipse, isn't it?
Yes.
yeah, I will not be.
You gonna head up north?
That's what?
The eclipse.
Oh,
Someone told me that today. I don't know about it.
no good.
I'm not gonna be here on the 8th, no.
The 15th?
I'll be here the 15th.
How about the April 15th?
Yeah, that's tax day, but hopefully any of us
Right.
So
pay taxes.
the commissioners will have a chance to look at this completed survey, I think at their first meeting in April. When do you want the survey to go out?
When is that meeting for them in April?
Nine.
April 2nd.
Yeah, it's right at the beginning.
I mean, if they approve it, then send it out, you know, that week. I mean,
Well, there must be a lapse between telling UNH go and them actually going, right?
They'll probably be pretty quick.
Yeah.
Once you hit the go button, I mean, they're providing the service they're paid for, so I'm sure they'll be, I mean, it's not gonna be instantaneous, but you're talking about, they've already got the list probably. They know they've got mailing lists.
yeah.
You know what, I know they have the mailing list.
It might just be like 48 or 72 hours.
What does it matter?
Make them and ship
What does it
them.
matter?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes, it-
once the commissioners say go with it, we're gonna get the results probably 6 or 8 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do in the meantime is, we started working on the space needs, and that hasn't changed. So
Right.
we're 2/3 of the way or so through that. We can finish that up, and in the interim, we'll get the results of the survey. So if we want to meet on the 15th of April, we can do space needs then, or we can just go into the month of May.
So, Paul, are you okay with the final survey being approved by the commissioners?
It's the
instead of
commissioner's
committees?
survey, yeah. Yeah. Are you guys, it's a commissioner's survey, right?
It's there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, I didn't know
you send
if you wanted to have the final report, what it's going to look like.
No.
Well, I mean, we're gonna send you
We've
our
done our-
final copy, but
I just,
I assume.
No,
I wouldn't want the
Change it.
commissioners to make a move and then
Right.
the committee saying, oh, wait, we wanted to look at it one more
I
time.
can't imagine the commissioners changing it,
I
with
can't.
you having been involved,
Right.
I can't,
Yeah.
Right,
right? I mean,
just trying to follow the process.
yeah. Oh, appreciate it. So, as far as our next meeting,
April 15th.
April 15th, you guys, everybody good with that? And we'll work on space needs?
Yep.
Okay. April 15th at 5:30? That's a Monday. Okay, sounds good. Do you have draft minutes, Chief? Because I didn't get any by email.
Yeah. Let me run into the car and see if they're
They were pretty
there.
short.
Or did I, when I rushed out, I left them at the fire station.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't bring a copy. We'll just fix them. But she did send them out, and I looked at it, and they were, pretty boilerplate. I mean, there was not a whole lot. I mean,
The minutes?
yeah. I mean, this is pretty much all we did.
Right.
Thank you.
I left them at the station.
Well, we can
We'll
sign off
review
on
the
the
minutes
local
next-
I have a
next
copy
meeting.
here. Right, 26? Was that the last meeting?
What's today?
February 26th?
Yes.
Yeah, February 26th.
26th.
Yes, it
yeah.
was. It was the 26th.
Yeah.
You want to have them in copies? There's a lot of
You
them.
can hold on that tomorrow.
Normally, no, I can't. I can't put the minutes up here until they're approved because they're in a secret place on the,
Can we,
only Kathy and Courtney have access to them until they're approved.
can we query the department members to see if we can get one call and one career guy on this committee that want to attend?
I talked to them about that, and what they want to do is when it gets down to the crux of it, they want to be here, but this does
That's
not.
what we all want, chief.
I know, but
That's what we all want.
this, to them, for some reason, is not.
Well, let's delete them from the committee because they're providing absolutely no input whatsoever. And I just soon may not be.
Or
involved.
have them be
Well, actually, I
non-voting
could probably
members.
take care of that because I actually have a call firefighter that lives in front of me. And I have a full-time that lives beside me. So if I do that, remember what they did with Manuel Noriega? With the speakers and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll just blast them until they come.
But we can't make those changes.
That's the commissioners. You can
Membership
suggest
of
it
the
to the
committee
commissioners.
is up to the commissioners. I'm not saying I disagree with you, we can't.
Well, can you put that on the agenda for next? I mean, I've been begging for months now for them to participate, and they've proven that they just don't care, so.
But it's not that they don't care, it's that this is not important.
This is not
part
the-
of it is not important.
So, but if they're going to be non-members, they're non-members, period, not to come in later.
Right.
I mean, I love the idea of getting input, but, you know,
If
if
you're
they're
in
not
it-
attending, they should.
if
One
you're
of
in it,
those,
you're in it.
one of those gentlemen we paid to send to a conference in Minneapolis
For this.
for this exact reason.
Right.
This is how much input we've got from him.
Copy.
I think the former commissioner has attended more meetings than one of them.
Okay.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of February 26th.
I'll second it.
Kevin, you weren't here, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. And our next meeting is April 15th at 5:30. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
What time is it adjourned at?
Oh,
7:18 PM.
17.
No, it's 7:18.
7, 8.
7:17.
At 5